Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Robert Rivera with Who's On First, and today, who do I got for you? I got Steve Peeler, and he is part of one of the most important teams in baseball here. We have an offense, we have a defense, we have umpires, and we have ground crew people. So, Steve, introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on the show. I been involved in Major League Baseball for more than 30 years and been head groundskeeper for three different teams, teams in the National League and American League. And then just retired last Monday from the Atlanta Braves as senior field manager and been doing this a long time. So I've been through probably three generations in baseball as far as Major League Baseball players are concerned. And I've been a part of a lot of memorable moments in Major League Baseball.
Okay. How do you get started? Who turns around and says, I want to be a groundskeeper for a major league team? How do you get started in this career?
Well, actually, it started for me when I was about 6 years old. My grandfather built a golf course and he put me to work on it. And at the same time, I found a love for baseball and never thought about, the part of baseball that is the grounds crew that takes care of the field. And it really didn't become a big um, entity until probably the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. You had, which was my mentor, Roger Bossard in Chicago, who took me under his wing in 93. And he has 17 secrets to the trade. He taught me some of them. And so I worked with him on building fields, and he actually built the first ballpark or the field that the first team I was with the St. Louis Cardinals when we went from synthetic turf to natural grass. He was a part of that, and I was a part of that. And we built several minor league parks across the country together, and he'd helped me along the way in everything that I did. So anything I wanted to try something new, or anytime I want to try something new, I'd run it by him first, because he had all the experience and all the knowledge, and is a third generation groundskeeper himself and legend in Chicago.
I mean, you talk about being a head groundkeeper. What is your job? What do you do? I mean, you can sit there, I just rake the field. But I'm sure people
Yeah.
that's all they see is you rake the field, you run around with the little machine like a Zamboni type of deal. But I'm
Right.
sure there's a lot of integral parts that go into your job.
Yeah, there is actually. And, you're making, it used to be when I first broke into Major League Baseball as a head groundskeeper, when you had weather coming in, that was the biggest challenge, because if you didn't get the tarp on the field and you got the game rained out, that was, and this is going back to the early 90s, that was $1 million loss that you had because you didn't get the game in.
Oh wow.
So weather's coming in, you got to monitor that. You have to look at long range weather. What's it going to be like at the end of the homestand? What's it going to be like at the beginning of the homestand? What's the possibilities of your game getting canceled because it's going to rain the whole time? What's the game plan for if we get rained out? Are we playing or get the game started? Are we playing suspended game, or are we going to start from scratch? And the rule book dictates all that. But the it used to be that groundskeeping was pretty straightforward, as far as all you had was Major League Baseball games, and you'd have an event occasionally.
Mhm.
But as we talked about earlier, money is a big deal, and generating revenue in Major League Baseball for the teams is a big deal. So you have to manage the extracurricular events that they have, such as concerts, dirt shows, if they have motocross in the off season, or monster truck shows. I've had some weird events on my field in the past, and that was back when it was just baseball. But now it is really, there's a very short window in the season to get things actually done on the field because of all the other events that are taking place. At Atlanta, we had one year 5 concerts, and that is a lot. And we had to replace sections of the field because of safety issues, but we knew that going in. So there was 12 areas in the outfield that we had to replace every concert, because that's where the base of the stage set, and put so much pressure on the ground that it actually killed the grass. So we knew every time after they got the stage off the field that we come in and replace that. And that's part that people don't see. You're working 15 hours a day, sometimes 16 hours a day, and I have pulled 42 hours straight when
Wow.
breaking down a concert. We had a concert in Pittsburgh when I was the head groundskeeper for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and we had the Rolling Stones and they were on a tour. And I went to other ballparks to kind of witness what was going on to get ready for them to come in for the setup. The stage was 5 stories tall. It had an elevator in it, and it also had seating for fans in it that you had to purchase a special ticket to go in there. And I'm sure it was a high dollar ticket. But we had a game on Sunday, and this is towards the end of the season. Our last homestand game for that week was a Sunday. We went on the road to California, and then we came back Friday and played Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The stage took 40 hours to set up. They started with setup Monday. They got it. The concert was on Thursday. We played on Friday. We were very, very close. If it rained at all, we were not going to be able to make the game. But we pulled it off. We replaced about 20,000 square feet of sod starting at 9 o'clock in the morning. And we played the game that night at 7:30. So that was a miracle. And that's the part that people probably don't get to see or realize what goes on is, during that time, you've got the pressure of them doing damage to the field and presenting a safety hazard for the players. But you also have to deal with what if it rains? What's their game plan? So on and so forth. So there is a tremendous amount of pressure in being head groundskeeper in Major League Baseball. It's just, it's not a life that everybody could handle. I'll say that. You've got to be really dedicated to it. And I can guarantee you there'll come a time when you're just totally burned out and you have to recuperate. And that time is not allowed, during the season. You have to keep going on the grind. The players have a grind, but the grounds crew and groundskeepers, they also have a grind to take care of
Wow.
their team and also take care of the field for special events coming in. So, and
I'm exhausted already. I think I need to take a nap just listening to this. But
yeah, it's a never ending process too, and it's a major production just to put on a Major League Baseball game, for TV and everything. And one of the events that would really wear you out was if we are in the middle of a homestand and we're getting towards the end of the week and it's on a Friday. A lot of teams have fireworks on Friday nights, so it depends on how the wind's blowing if the fireworks are going to end up back on the field or if they're going to end up somewhere on the street or the parking lot. So if they end up back on the field, that's probably 2.5 hours that you have to spend cleaning that up because you got a game the next day. And also, they contain sulfur and sulfur balls, so that does kill grass. So you got to make sure you get all that up too.
oh man, I was like, wow. I don't know, man. I don't know which one would be harder,
Yeah.
facing Randy Johnson or having to clean those fields. I don't know. I think I'd want to face Randy Johnson.
Well, when we went to pull the tarp, a lot of times, I would rather have been hit in the back with a Randy Johnson fastball than I would pull the tarp. That's how much of a hard thing it was. And, I actually got injured pulling the tarp in Pittsburgh. I ruptured 2 discs and had a bulging disc. And then, so I had that surgery. And then this past year, one of the reasons I am retiring is I had to have surgery on my rotator cuff, my labrum, and my bicep. They all popped at the same time. So I tried to go a half a season with it and make it. I couldn't do it. And so I had a surgery on June the 9th and they repaired all that. But
All right. I mean, so now we got that ugly side out, all this work and all this stuff. But you ever been? Because I always think about it, and it's happened to me. I remember my dad telling me, "Hey, go to the little league field," and he'd be like, "Hey, they got a new grass, a weeder, a lawnmower." He said,
right.
"We got a new lawnmower." And I gotta go get it started. I would get it started, and he'd be like, "Why don't you cut the grass, and I'll be back and go get something." And just being on the grass in the outfield all
Mhm.
by myself, nobody in the park. You ever have one of those moments?
Oh yeah. I mean, you kind of, you're tired when you're working long home stands, but the most important day and most exciting day in baseball, I think, is the opening day. I know the World Series is great, playoffs is great, but opening day is just really, really special. They put on a good show for the fans, and the players are excited about it coming from spring training, and they're ready to get the season underway. And they've been playing for a month and a half already, so they're good to go. And so it's very exciting for opening day. I was part of a couple things that were very historic for a short time in baseball. I was with the
Okay.
St. Louis Cardinals when Mark McGwire broke the single season home run record and got to be a part of that. And that was just really an amazing event for me. Coming from a small town in North Carolina, it was very humbling to be part of that, and it was very appreciative to be part of it. So yeah, the most relaxing time I have in the job would be on the moor or on the infield working it, because that's usually where I spent most of my time. But, the grass takes about 45 minutes to an hour each day. But that infield takes at least 4 to 5 hours to get ready to the standards that the players need it.
What's the one thing that, hey, listen, I'm taking care of that.
Yeah. Well, taking care of the infield was my specialty because, again, Roger Bossert, who was my mentor, that's what he stressed. And he taught me, I can't be thankful enough to him because he really taught me everything he knew. And I was very successful maintaining infield skins, built a decent reputation of having a good infield, and players seemed to like it. And, so that's what I took pride in doing. And, you don't get a lot of compliments in the job, I'll say that, but the best thing or the best compliment you can get is the player's not saying anything. If they have a complaint, then it can get ugly, but don't say anything at all to you, you're doing a good job. So
Okay.
at 13 years old, I had made a promise to myself, and I made a goal that I was going to be a Major League Baseball player. And I'm a religious man. I used to pray every night, please let me make it to Major League Baseball. Please let me make it to Major League Baseball. And that prayer was answered, but I forgot to be specific and say, let me play in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
So, but I'll tell you, the job the teams that I've been with have all been great. I have so many memories of, like I said, historical things that have taken place in my career and people I've met. And the greatest thing for me was when I met my childhood hero, Dale Murphy. I idolized the man when I was, middle school and high school, and played like him, tried to be him. And I had the opportunity to meet him when I was about 13 through a friend of mine. I got to meet him. I wrote him a letter, a 5-page letter. I thought it was the best letter that could ever been composed, and gave it to him. Thank you, listen to him speak and everything, talk about baseball. And from that day forward, I knew he was going to answer my letter. And I waited multi-years, 30 plus years to get an answer. And I finally got to meet him at the ballpark, talk to him. And I asked him about it. Do you remember the letter? And he said, oh, no, I'm sorry, I don't remember it, but which I would assume. But he kind of did answer the letter. And the last day that I was at the ballpark in my office, there was a baseball on my desk. It said, to Steve, Dale Murphy. And that was a highlight for being in Atlanta. I mean, I really idolized the man, as far as playing wise.
Yeah.
And so that was really a good feeling. And the job is very rewarding, and when you face a special challenge like weather coming in and you're running as hard as you can and getting the tarp on the field in 90 seconds, when you get it on and the crowd goes crazy, that's a feeling that a lot of people don't get to experience. And I got to experience that a lot of times.
I'm always one of those guys that are like, hey, listen, in anything you do, you want to be the best. So
yes.
whether you're the guy that paints the bases, whether you're the guy that rakes the dirt, whether you're the guy that drags the mat, you want to be the best at it. And it was one of those deals in Miami when I was in the Series del Caribe. I was there, and we were I think it was first base side, but there was a young man that, I tell you, when it was time to rake that field at third base, the hustle to get out there with that rake. He had that rake and he was pumping. His knees were up and he was pumping. And the way he raked, he raked with vigor. He raked like, hey, this is it. I'm gonna clean this up. This is gonna be clean. And when the guys came with the mats and they started at first base, they came around. He would throw that extra sand or that dirt and he'd throw it around, flatten it out real nice. And you see him. And at one point he went with his hand in the corner and patted it down and bushed it. And then he came back and get off the field, and he was hustling around third, around the umpire, all the way back into first base, moving, trucking. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
If you're gonna rake a field, that's how you rake a field.
Right. Right. A lot of the guys on the crews and my crew members over the years, there's a lot of good characters on the grounds crew. They love baseball. They love being part of something that makes a difference in the game. And these guys are very particular about their areas they take care of, and they're even particular about if they're having to paint the field for logos or something. They are very particular about having the same spray gun each time. In fact, they'll take them and hide them and say, this is mine, don't touch it. So a lot of pride goes into the job.
Wow. I mean, that's great. Because you never think of it. If
Right.
people, like I said, people buy their ticket, they come to the game, they look at the field, yeah, yeah, boo hoo, ha ha, whatever. It's a baseball field. It's
Right.
not. There's a lot of thought process in there. There's certain seed that you have to order. There's a certain time of year that has to be ordered. How
Right.
much you really have to think. Do we need 2 pallets? Do we need 3 pallets? Are we going to need this type of dirt? How are we going to get this? Are we getting how many truckloads of this type of dirt? I'm sure you've been through that. And then
Oh, sure.
you're giving your budget, and you're sitting there trying to, hey, I need $10,000 worth of this dirt, and they, oh well, we're good. It's going to cost you 12. Well, listen, we need, I'm sure you're wheeling and dealing, trying to get the best deal. Say, hey,
Right.
we may have to go to Concrete Brothers, we may have to go to John Smith Sand or whatever you have to do. I'm
Yeah.
sure. See, you're shaking your head. So I can see it, I could feel it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We planned ahead for the worst case possible in with the teams I've been with. In fact, we with one or two of the teams I was with, we had a backup field that was 100,000 square feet set aside at a sod farm that was specifically for us. If something happened in one of the events, or the field was unsafe, we had another field ready to go to come in and be replaced. We could take out a field in about a day and a half, the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then we could actually have it resodded in about 2.5 days if we work around the clock. So you're looking at about 100,000 square feet of sod, and um, so you're always prepared for the worst. And that's another part of the job that people don't realize. Even people in the front office don't realize that the pressure's on the grounds crew to get it done, because you can have the best ballpark, you can have the best seats, you can have the best restaurants, best concessions, but if you don't have a field to play on, all of it's useless.
So what would it cost to replace the sod for a whole field?
Back when I first did it in St. Louis, we got our sod from Florida. We'd replace every year, and back then it was in the early '90s. It was roughly around 200,000 at that time, and now it's probably I know we replaced in Atlanta. I think the sod itself is about $250,000, somewhere in that area.
Wow, wow.
So, but it is grown specifically for the ballpark. It's grown on plastic, which the roots are growing right on top of plastic. So when you bring it in, you've got a good root system already started, and it's cut to a certain thickness that you could actually lay it and play on it. And I have done that before, like we did in Pittsburgh. I've laid sod in the morning, and we've played on it that night.
I remember when I took a tour in Seattle, and
Hmm.
they took us onto the field, and I was thinking, is there any way we can go to home plate? And this guy came busting with one of his little, the golf cart,
Right.
and he turned around and he was like, "All right," he goes, "This is my field." I don't know who he was. I have no idea, but he said, "This is my field." He goes, "The rules are, if you get on the grass, I'm going to have you escorted out." He
Right.
goes, "Nobody touch the grass."
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
goes, "I'm going to get some guys to get some planks of wood," and it was basically just thin pieces of wood. He goes, "You'll walk onto the wood to home plate. Do
Yeah.
not walk anywhere else, and walk back."
Right.
And he goes, "And don't walk on the grass." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Wow!" I told my wife, I said, "This guy's serious. Like he's yeah." And I'm sitting there, I'm like, you know what? But to think that you're replacing a field for $250,000. I mean, if this was your house and
Mhm.
somebody stepped all over your grass and you just put $250,000, I think anybody would be a little upset if you somebody walking on the grass.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
And I was in Seattle. I actually built Safeco Field, which is under another name now.
yeah,
Uh, and yeah, that was the second retractable roof stadium that was in existence. And so I ran a lot of people off the field. I even ran my own daughter off the field when she came on. I said, "You can't be out here. You need to leave." But it's people take that as, this guy's really crazy about his grass and his
yeah,
field, but really what we're doing is protecting it for the players,
right,
because it's not that you're really going to do a lot of damage if you walk on it. You're not going to do any damage if you walk on it, but it's just that pride of, hey, this is for Major League Baseball players,
right,
and they've earned the right to be here, and they should be the only ones playing on it and walking
right,
on it,
right,
which
right.
doesn't happen, but we try to protect it as much as we can.
You're the grounds guy.
Well,
You just painted. You just
right.
painted that beautiful line. It's what was it? 2 3/4, right? 2 3/4 wide.
The foul line's 4 inches. Yeah.
Okay. No, all right. So foul line's 4 inches. Okay. So now you painted that beautiful line, and then you got guys storming and with their cleats and making holes. You ever cringe and go, "We stepped on the line, oh, that beautiful line."
Yeah, we do actually, and especially if you painted it that morning or midday in the high humidity and it's not all the way dry, you can track it. But we take precautions and painting it with enough time for it to dry.
Okay.
Uh, and so never really had a problem. But a lot of pitchers that are in the outfield getting their early work in or doing extra work and or throwing a pin or a side
Right.
because they pitched last night, they'll use the foul line as the pitching rubber,
Okay.
and they'll put the foot right up against it. And if they
Oh,
don't move, they'll dig a hole.
yeah.
So
Oh,
uh, I remember my mentor Roger Bosser talked about him. He had Roger Clemens to come into town when they played the Yankees, and Roger Clemens was digging a big hole in the outfield, and he told him you can't do that. And Roger Clemens just kept on throwing. And Roger's a big guy, as you know, and Roger's a smaller guy. So to get him to stop, Roger went up and stood right in front of him and said, "Throw another one." So there's a lot of pride goes into protecting the field from a groundskeeper.
okay. So now this lead up to the whole thing. Who
Yeah.
makes a bigger hole? Does the batter make a bigger hole, or does the pitcher make bigger holes? Who makes the bigger holes?
Well, there were times when certain pitchers would like to have a hole that was bigger. Sid Fernandez was one of them, that used to play or you pitch for the Mets. And then I remember Jamie Moyer in Seattle when I was there. We'd cheat a little bit with Jamie Moyer. We'd paint the rubber up about an inch onto the dirt, and we'd cover the back inch with soil conditioner. So he was
Mhm.
actually an inch closer. Now, did it make a difference? I don't know. They're pretty equal actually because of the clay that we use in there.
Right.
If you get a big guy throwing on a mound, he can dig a pretty big hole, but it's pretty consistent all over. And there was a couple times in the past in my career where we had to go out and fix the mound during the game. Now that's something you don't like to do, but
Right.
if you get a pitcher coming in from the bullpen and he's not satisfied with it and he complains to the umpires, then you're pretty much obligated to go out there and take care of it.
Right. 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 So I mean, we now we talk about complaints.
Mhm.
You ever had a team complain about, like you were with the Atlanta Braves, and this is an umpire story where the team coming in was complaining about the size of the catcher's box, and the catcher at the time was Javi Lopez,
Mhm.
and they proceeded to go. The umpires decided they were going to go and talk to Bobby Cox.
Right.
Well, Bobby Cox told them, guys, I want to show you something in the hallway, and he shows them. They said, "What are you looking for?" He goes, "What does it say on my door here?" It says manager. He said, "Okay, when did I become in charge of the ground crew?" He said, "Stay out of my office." And he went into his office and slammed the door.
Right. Right. And
Good
that's
old
just
Bobby Cox.
Yeah, and that's just like Bobby Cox. Bobby Cox is probably one of the best baseball men I've ever got to know. The groundskeeper, and it used to be this way. And you got a complaint, you say, "Hey, can you take care of this for me?" And sure, I'll see what I can do. But Jimmy Williams complaining about a little bit of a lip we had at third base at Busch Stadium, and he said, "Hey, we got Chipper here, and he just got back off the IL at that time, and we don't want to take a chance to get him hurt. Is there anything you can do for us?" And it was very nice, very professional about it, and sure, we took care of it. But when you're a groundskeeper in Major League Baseball, not only are you supposed to take care of your team, you're supposed to take care of the other team too, because it's all one big operation. So you care as much for the visiting team as you do your own players because you expect that respect when your team goes to their place. Now, I have seen vendettas occur over sometimes that you're not letting them use the field early or early BP for some reason. It doesn't happen anymore, but it used to. If they
Right.
when it come their time to come to your place and you had given them a bad deal before, they're gonna make it a little hard on you.
Okay. All right. So I mean that Javi Lopez, that box, I don't know if you remember that.
Mhm.
How I mean, how would you just go out there and just repaint it and just the umpire said and
Yeah. Well, you have a template that you go out there with and do it, or you could actually measure it out. But I remember the batter's box controversy. In fact, when Major League Baseball mandated that we did it, I didn't do it immediately, and I held off as long as I could for the fact that our catchers wanted to get outside of that box, and if there was one there, they would be. You could see that they were outside of it. So I
yeah.
delayed it as much as I could, and finally they come and said, "You got to put it
I
in."
guess I guess that's why they
So
call it home field advantage, huh?
that's exactly right. Like I said earlier, my mentor said there's 17 tricks of the trade, and he taught me a lot of them, but he didn't teach me all 17. But I know in Cleveland they used to do things like move the fences in and out between homestands depending on who was coming in.
Yes, I remember
And
that.
one of groundskeeper years ago, well, it was with the White Sox actually. They used to keep the baseballs in a humidified room.
Mhm.
They were a little heavier, and so they wouldn't travel as far. And so there was all kinds of things. that happened that the groundskeepers controlled. Uh,
Hmm.
and like second base at Busch Stadium, when we renovated the field from AstroTurf to natural grass, second base was off 7 inches to the bad. So when Lou Brock was stealing bases, it was too long. So that's how good
Wow.
he, yeah, that's how good
Wow.
he.
I mean, what do you think about all these new dimensions with the bases and I turn around and my buddy was like, yeah, Acuna, he's stealing all these bases, 70 bases. And I'm like, well, I mean, there's 6 inches closer.
Mhm.
And on top of that, he's got that oven mitt, which gives him another 3 inches. So he's
Yeah,
technically 9 inches closer. And
right,
he was like, look at him. And he goes, wow, I never even
yeah,
thought of that. I was like,
right.
yeah, he goes, you are a baseball man. And I was like, hey man, I was like 9 inches is long, buddy.
It's a
It's
lot.
you'd be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, if you give somebody that advantage with his speed, then it's gonna be the other team's disadvantage
Hmm.
with rule changes and things. The bases, we made fun of them at first. We called them pizza boxes because that's about the size that they were.
Wow.
But after you see them for a while, you get used to them, and it kind of doesn't really jump out at you as it did before, uh,
Right.
comparing the 15 to the new base. So yeah, it made a difference. Some of the rule changes they put in play over the past 3 years wasn't too wild about them at first, but being in the game, it speeds the game up great.
Right.
But I don't know if the fans are really uh, seeing a difference or not. I'm sure they are as far as getting home earlier, and that's what we wanted to do, but we never did that much. But uh, it's I understand the reason that they want to speed up the game. I do that because it did slow down, and if they can speed it up, it's okay. But
Right.
I hope they don't start messing with the traditional baseball rules uh, that have been around forever.
Right.
I'm a traditionalist, and I like to see the game stay the same.
I'm the same way. What's the biggest enemy of your field? What is it? Is it seeds? Is it bubble gum? Is it the long cleats? What's your biggest enemy?
The tarp.
The tarp.
If you're located in California, you don't have to deal with it that much. But if you're up north, in Chicago or Pittsburgh or Boston, and even in Atlanta, you have to deal with a tarp. Atlanta's the only ballpark in the southeast that is not retractable roof now, so that makes it challenging because the weather coming in. But when you put the tarp on the field, it just gets so dirty because the tarp collects the infield mix on it, and it gets muddy. And when you're pulling it across the grass, it stains the grass. Now a lot of people may not be able to see that, but as a groundskeeper, you see everything. So if you're on TV and you've had the tarp on all day and you pulled it off, there's a distinct stain there, and you see it. If you leave the tarp on too long, and sometimes you have to, you're going to discolor the grass, and you'll see a perfect square out there, and the point will be right behind second base, and then a straight line from second base all the way down to back to first, and then down to third. So, but that's something you got to do is protect the game. We can always put in more grass, but if we get a game rained out, that's a lot of money. And
Mm,
but the technology is to the point now where we can actually lift the tarps off the field with blowing air under them, and it forms a dome, and the water will run off of it. I can't do it when the wind's blowing really hard, because if the tarp gets up and the wind catches it, it's just a solid piece, and it'll take it for forever until it gets caught on
yeah.
something. So
I was at Yankee Stadium this winter and I was able to get on the field and
yeah,
they had that bad boy tarped up real nice.
yeah,
It was amazing. I was like, wow, didn't even think about how they did it. I think they just let it be, but no, it
yeah,
was all tarped up. It was all covered up. It
right,
looked bundled, nice bundled up like a baby
yeah.
bottom. Yeah. You ever lose a
Well, when
man putting on a tarp there? I remember I seen one where they put it
yeah,
here, they angled it wrong way, and they
right,
zigzag. I forgot what game it was, man, but they were lost. Then they lost the guy. He was underneath there trying to get out. He was soaking wet. And then the rain stopped. They tried to get it off, and then all of a
yeah,
sudden it came down again, and it was just pandemonium. And I was like, I love it. I love seeing it. You ever
yeah.
lost a man doing that?
I have not, but I think the one you're talking about is in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy got caught up in the tarp, and that's when the wind got under it a little bit, and it actually came from behind him and engulfed him. And I have been trapped under there before, and I will say it's dark, so and you kind of lose a sense of direction when you get under there, because you know where you're at, but when it's totally dark, you have nothing to guide you by. So you might go the wrong way for about 10 feet and have to go back the other way. But I can tell you this, when you come out of that thing, you are muddy and smelly. So you get inspected. They come in and look at it. And, occasionally you'll get inspected at the beginning of the year.
All right. So
Something
what, I mean, you're getting expected. What is that? I mean, what does that entail? You get a crew of 20 guys that come in and magnifying glasses, and like, we're going to
yeah.
find every little square inch that's off measurement or something. How does that work out?
Well, Major League Baseball used to have an individual that was his sole purpose was to go around to the fields and he'd measure the height of your mound. He'd measure the distance from pitching rubber to home plate apex. He'd measure your bases. He'd look at the foul poles. He'd look at different things. Now, he never did look for safety issues, so to speak, as far as if they were lips or anything like that. But he did that. Now there was times, and I don't think they do this anymore, but the umpire would tell you before the game started, right when he's coming out, "Hey, I'm going to inspect your mound after the game. I just want to let you know." So if you were off any, you had no time to fix it. It got to the point where, okay, yeah, we understand you guys want to get a home field advantage, so we're going to give you a day's notice. Hey, tomorrow after the game, we're going to inspect your mound. So that gave you a little bit of time to get it down. And they didn't do that to all teams at the same time. It was very random.
Right.
But they could catch you off guard in the old days, and you'd be standing out there, and the only thing you can do is play dumb. You know you did it. You just had to say, we didn't realize I did it, and they would say, well, make sure it's down tomorrow. We might recheck it. They never did, but we did lower it
Yeah.
to get back in regulation because
So I mean, so what are the perks of being a ground crew?
well, a lot of people ask me, so do you ever get to talk to the players? I'm like, well, if I want to, I did. I try not to because believe it or not, they're human beings too, and they come to work and they have problems. So I never went out of my way to really talk to any of them. I made friends with some of them. One of the best friendships I had was John Mabry when he was with the Cardinals. He was a practical joker, and he told me, one time, it really smells out in right field. I don't know what you're doing out there. I said, well, it's probably one Lorgonite we put out a couple of days ago, and we used to call him a pansy, and we set a can of Febreze out there before a game one time when he came out to right field, and he laughed, but he drop kicked it over the fence. He's part of the joke, but I used to bury just to get the reaction, because there's a time when I buried a $5 bill at the home plate just for the game, right in the catcher's box. And Tom Lampkin came out and he started doing his digging, and he found it and he picked it up and he kind of looked around and see if anybody was watching. And then he put it in his back pocket, and we just, we had a great time with that. That was great. And then, one of the groundskeepers years ago used to smoke cigars all the time, and he was notorious for leaving his cigar butt in one of the batter's boxes. If you went out there every day, it was there at the same time.
That's some good stuff. That's really,
Yeah.
you're playing little tricks. And I'm going to give you one. So I was umpire, and I was doing the men's league game,
Mhm.
and to get to the men's league, and there's no home plate.
Oh,
So I'm sitting there, I'm looking around, and I'm like, well, you guys got bases, but where's home plate? And it's
right.
under there, and I'm looking, I'm kicking, I said, there's no home plate.
Yeah.
And the two managers come out, they're looking down, they go, yeah, there is no home plate. I said, well, gentlemen, listen, we're going to play this game one way or the other. I'm
Right.
getting paid.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to have a nice floating strike zone today. No, 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 no. Guy goes in the dugout, calls his dad. He says, my dad lives a couple miles down the road. I know he's got a home plate in his garage. He's going to
Right.
bring it. I
Yeah.
said, okay. Well, he shows up about 10 minutes later, and he's got this home plate. This thing is yellow, and it
Oh,
looks like a bowl. It's bent up like that.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is going to get real interesting.
Right.
Well, they throw it down there, and the point is towards second base.
Oh, no.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, huh. So I turn around, and that pitch comes in, and we do the top of the first inning. My partner comes, he goes, Rob, the plate's upside down. I said, I know. He goes, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm leaving it. They put it there. I'm going to leave it. I was like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I said, let's see how far we can go with this. Goes,
Right.
okay.
Right.
Around the third inning, shortstop's coming in. He goes, hey, Blue, I hate to tell you, but home plate's upside down. I said, I like you. You're a baseball man. I was like, when you come up, your first pitch is going to be a ball.
Yeah.
he goes, okay, cool. So sure
Yeah.
enough, this guy comes up to bat, and the catcher went, ball right down the middle, and I
Yeah.
ball. And the catcher looks up. He goes, "What the heck is going on?" I said,
Yeah.
"Something in my eye." He goes, "Well, get it out of your freaking eye." Throws the ball back. Sitting there, the guy's backing out. He's smiling. I'm like, "Don't smile at me. I don't like you anymore."
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, "This
We,
guy hasn't thrown a freaking strike all night. Now that's the one he's gonna throw." I was
yeah.
like, "Give me a break." I was like, "This is ridiculous." But yeah, I mean, you get to have some fun. You get
Yeah.
to have some fun with some of this stuff. Listen, I appreciate you taking your time out and talking to everybody. I mean, it's amazing stuff, and we did a lot of things that we as fans don't take into account. We always look at the guys on the field, we always look at the managers, the coaches, and stuff like that, but we don't appreciate the grounds crews. We don't appreciate those people that are collecting our tickets
Right.
and parking our helping us park our vehicles, selling the hamburgers, the hot dogs out there. They're out
Mhm.
there. It's hot. Those guys that clean the bathroom, those ushers that get you to your seats.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't appreciate you guys enough. And
Yeah.
my congratulations on your retirement.
Oh,
And I
thank you.
hope now you can spend more time with your family, and you can go to these ballparks and go, "Look at that. That's a mess over there. And that thing in
Yeah.
corner over there."
Well, I'm actually going to be building a miniature ballpark in my backyard. So I'm doing a replica of Fenway Park,
Okay.
and so it's going to be a wiffle ball park. But I'd
Okay.
started it some time back, and I kind of let it grow over. But we're going to go 100% this
All
time to
right.
get it done.
All right. Well, you
Yeah.
got to invite me up when it's all done.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve. Thank you again. All right, everybody. There's Steve Peeler. Now you understand how the field, how it gets done, and you can appreciate the grass being grown and type of grasses and stuff like that. And as we say here on Who's on First, keep swinging.
Keep swinging.
If you like the show, please do me a favor. Subscribe. Right. You see it? It's right there. Subscribe, share, like, and don't forget, put that bell on. It'll ding you when I put something else on, all right?